This is Middletown. Middletown is anywhere in the United States. It may be a village, it may be a city, but wherever it is alive with activity. All the Middletowns everywhere are producing the machines and weapons of war, the thousands of things needed by the fighting men. Keep it up, Middletown. We need the machines and the weapons you are making.
Hold on a minute. Listen to me. Yes, you're right. Middletown is a symbol of America on the mark. That symbol means more to me than machines or weapons. I've been a doctor here for some 30-odd years. I know the people here, their troubles, their joys. And these people who make Middletown are in this war in earnest. But it wasn't easy. Let me tell you about it. 2 years ago, Middletown was a small town hoping someday to grow big. Main Street was the center of town, but seldom very exciting. We were proud of our neat churches. We had fine schools, a good hospital, and a tuberculosis sanatorium. There were clubs and meeting places of all kinds. Parks, public buildings, a library, and statues, reminders of a proud past. We lived in comfortable houses in shady streets. Some of our houses have been here a century or more. Of course, we have poorer houses too, and some slums, which I'll not show you. And on the outskirts of town were a few small factories and plants. On the whole, we were a happy people, good neighbors, and we tackled our social problems in a fairly modern way. Then war came. The nation's capital hummed with activity, planning the fight. Back from Washington came Mr. Adams with a big order for his plant. This factory had never handled so big an order before. They'll have to enlarge the factory now. New machinery and more workers will be needed. All this was good news for Middletown. Last, the long depression had ended. We organized a Greater Middletown Committee to boost prosperity along and win the war. A vigorous group. Mayor Dalton, who beamed with pride, has described the brilliant future of Middletown. Mr. Thompson, the banker, who saw bigger payrolls, money flowing freely, and fatter dividends for investors. Miss McCarthy, our public welfare director, wearied with the burden of public poverty and now hoping for better times. Mrs. Carson, clubwoman, president of the exclusive choral society, looking forward to lively social affairs. Oh, yes. I was a member, too, hoping for the best, but also skeptical because I knew that prosperity brings its problems, too. Yes, in spite of my somewhat gloomy forebodings, we saw a bright future for Middletown. This sleepy village was going to wake up at last. And it did. Industry boomed. Men wanted. Middletown men, old and young, lined up for the big job that had to be done. More orders. Goods had to be turned out faster. That meant more problems, too. And again, the factory had to be enlarged. More men wanted. But there were none. Every man jack of Middletown had a job. The news that workers were needed in Middletown and that wages were good spread. Soon mechanics, garage men, storekeepers roundabout closed their shops and started for Middletown. Farmers with their wives and friends were soon on the highways leading to Middletown. Some had lost their farm, others were lured by the hope of making a better living. Day after day they came, looking for jobs. Clerks, stenographers, salesmen, laborers, youngsters just out of high school. And soon Middletown became a little crowded. Rent signs came down. Trailer camps ebbed into vacant lots. Old shacks not fit to live in were pressed into service. Middletown had suddenly outgrown its size. The boom had its effect on the older residents. Take the Carsons, for example, a fine, respected family who had always lived here. Mr. Carson kept the town to the sanctuary. With all this new business, he at last got that raise in salary he had expected for so long. Mrs. Carson, she was at the meeting of the Greater Middletown Committee, you remember, belonged to club, had many friends, and was especially proud to be president of the College Society. There is Charlie, their 10-year-old son. He wants to be a pilot, and it looks as if he were on his way. That meeting had given Mrs. Carson a bright idea. The Carsons, she said, would profit too by Middletown's prosperity. Mr. Carson wasn't much impressed with the scheme at first, but let's see what it is. Ah, yes. An old barn that came with the homestead. They would clean it up a bit and rent it to some newcomer. Mr. Carson objected at first. There was no plumbing in that barn. No heating system. It was musty and still smelled of horses. Mrs. Carson had grand visions of how it could be fixed up, and someone in desperate need of a roof would rent it. So many more dollars coming in each week. Mr. Carson, good husband that he was soon persuaded, and soon a for rent sign adorned the old barn that had stood idle so many years. Among those who came to Middletown were the Bennetts. They had traveled many miles with their pathetic belongings. Mr. Bennett wanted one thing, work. The hard lean years had left their mark, but now he and Mrs. Bennett were again optimistic. Mrs. Bennett worried a little because Mr. Bennett did have a cough. He felt tired all the time. But what of it? New hope buoyed them up. This is Robert, a 10-year-old son. He too wants to be a pilot and is not losing any time. The Bennetts, wearied with their search, took the old barn fixed up by the Carsons, and were glad to get it. After all, it did have windows and running water. Once they moved in, though, they found how unlivable it was. A regular dirt catcher. Water was hard to get. No proper cooking facilities or toileting. Bad. Indecent. But what could they do? Yes, while the town hummed, there were also bad squeaks and crashing noise. The children of newcomers and old-timers did not get on at all. Nothing very serious, just petty suspicions and hurt feelings. The conflict of Charlie and Robert is probably a kind of barometer of the feelings of their elders. Yes, only two excited boys fighting it out with their fists, as lusty youngsters will, but yet, the world are thinking. As little things came faster and faster, the health of the people too was in danger. There were no physical examinations in the plant, no medical supervision. And suppose Mr. Bennett or any other workman did have